With the school holidays coming up, many families will be wondering how they can best support their young children when they're getting out and about in the community and accessing some of the free or paid activities that might be available. My name is Lily Wicks, and I'll be hosting the following panel and inviting some guests to discuss some practical ways that you can support your child as a parent when considering new activities. So as I mentioned, my name is Lily Wicks. I have a background in speech pathology, but currently hold the Professional Services Manager role at LifeStart. I'd also like to introduce Susan Spruce. Susan Spruce is currently the coordinator of the School Age Years, or SAY program here at LifeStart, and her role as an inclusion facilitator sees her supporting many families in the community. Welcome, Susan.
Hi, Lily. Thanks for having me.
I'd also like to introduce Jenny Kemp. Jenny Kemp has a clinical background as an occupational therapist, but is currently involved in service development and innovation at LifeStart. Welcome, Jenny.
Thanks, Lily.
So we're all here today to discuss some of the practical ways that you can support your child to get involved in some community activities during the upcoming school holidays. So I'm guessing that many families might be considering what they might be doing in the upcoming school holidays. Susan, what might you suggest as a starting point for families when planning school holiday outings, particularly when children may have challenges getting involved in these activities?
When planning, Lily, for the school holidays, it's very best to start early with your child. So as you and your child are aware of all the activities that are out there and what choices are around for their participation. So whether it's going to be a vacation care program where they go on their own and need some support, or whether you're choosing to access a community activity with the adult as well, planning is the key. So starting with asking your child and yourself some W questions can be helpful. So what is your child good at? What do they like to do? And what are their special interests? How can you focus a community activity around those things that come naturally to your child and that they enjoy doing? What can they do that's a little bit independent of you as well? What part of independent living requires some additional support? Who could you go to and ask questions in regards to that? What could be a positive activity to start with that you could choose together? So a bit of choice for the child.
Something that's potentially quite easy for them to get involved in
Very
at the
much
beginning?
so. Yeah, something that's very easy, something that's accessible, something they may have done before a little bit of, but want to move forward with. And also who could go with them. So for some peer interactions, maybe a sibling, maybe another family member, or other peers who have that same interest as well. And then, of course, the parent would need to know, how do I enrol in that activity and who do I talk to about it?
That's a really good point, actually identifying a contact person. Jenny, what kind of things could you speak to the contact person at, say, a community centre or a library or a sporting activity that would help them better understand the needs that your child may have?
Yeah, I think it's really important to make that early contact with that coordinator or the person running the program, and first of all find out what the program involves. So how many adult staff will be at the program, if parents aren't going to be along there, how many children will be there, what level of supervision and independence is needed. For example, are meals going to be there or meals not going to be there? And that helps families match up what the strengths that Susan was talking about to what their child can actually do independently. And to go from there to talk about, my child may need a little bit of support with that element of the activity. What could we work together beforehand to work out around that? So that you're not presenting things as a barrier. You're actually just looking at those little tweaks in a program where a child might need a little bit of additional support and able to plan for that beforehand.
Okay, great. Is there anything that families can do to support their children from before they go to the activity so they perhaps have a better experience while they're participating?
A bit of research around it. Children like to see things before they participate in them. So a little bit of Googling on the internet. What does the place look like? Have I seen it before? How could I make it into a story? How could I inform the child about those types of interests and what's there so as there's no surprises when they get there?
I think just to add to that, one of the things families often say is that it's really important to consider what friends are going to be doing in the holidays, because there's a lot of talk amongst children about what they're going to actually be going to do in the holidays. And we don't always think about, matching children up to each other and saying, do you want to bring a friend along, or perhaps you could go to something that a friend's going to, and that be part of the choice of activities. Because you know that most children in the school holidays, they might not always choose the thing that's of maximum interest to them, but the interest is around the fact that their friends are going. So how can you involve the friendship group in getting the child ready as well, in talking about it and the experiences that they've had, and sharing their impressions of what that was like.
What a great idea, and something that perhaps not families haven't been thinking about in the past, to try and really canvass their friends and see what other families are doing. And I imagine that families would appreciate some offers of babysitting at that time as well.
Yeah.
Susan, I liked how you spoke about sort of doing some research on the internet. Did you have any ideas about, you mentioned stories, what kind of stories do you often
social
help you?
stories are a great way for a child who's able, in that older age group particularly, to sit down and actually work through a story with the parent as well. When they're in early intervention, we tend to do the stories for the child, but for them to have a choice about what they would like to go to, have a look at it. Does that look like what I would like to participate in? Write a little story about what I would like to do when I'm there, who I'm going to see, how do I get there, all those preparation type things. You can easily do it on a PowerPoint display, and each page is a little story. You can use some images from the internet or photographs if you decide to visit beforehand the place with your child. Take a photo of your child there, seeing yourself or the child seeing themselves on that page with a little story about what will happen there makes more sense, and it's easily adaptable for them.
Sounds like it'd be a bit more meaningful if they can see some realistic pictures as well.
Yes.
I know some families that I've worked with have used their smartphone or their iPhone to make a simple story just by saving photos to their camera reel and allowing their child to flip through them.
That's great because it's so portable, Lily.
Yeah, so they could easily be preparing ahead of time. So it sounds like you've got some great ideas to engage the child in the activity, and you perhaps have the community coordinators or people at the activities on board. Are there any practical tips or ideas that you could share if things aren't going to plan whilst your child's at an activity?
Don't stress. Parents, don't stress about it. Just breathe, take your time, reevaluate the situation. Have a little look about what's been happening. Seek some advice perhaps from the people who have been supporting your child there. They may have a few clues for you as well about something that might not have been used in the preparation for an event. So just reevaluating your environment, looking again at the noise level for your child. Is a friend not there today who was there yesterday? So, the child's routine's been upset. They don't have that safe feeling or any friends there, which might be enough just to stir the pot a little bit for them. So if families are able to really look at and review their routine, the preparation that they've done for the day, the child's sensory needs, what the communication's been like between the carers and the child, noise, interests, maybe the ability level of the activity is too high for your child, or again, too easy and they're bored. So just reevaluating, talking to your child, what went wrong today? And let's plan again. It's all about planning. Let's plan again, sit down, have a chat. How can we do this better the next time?
I think to add to that too, just to perhaps talk to your child about what happened. I think we've all had the experience with children going to school holiday activities that many children go to activities that they decide they don't like after a day or two. And, that might be one way of communicating that to you, that that's actually not an activity that they want to be involved in. And so you can assess that with your child. If it's an activity you need them to go to because you're working, then that might be a different plan of action to one that you don't actually need them to go to, that you just really wanted to try out, and you can negotiate with your child around that and then work with the coordinators or the carers of that activity around what might need to happen next.
Sounds like communication seems to be the key, so communication with your child and the people that are potentially going to be working with them.
Definitely, yeah.
Anything else that you wanted to add for families as they go into the next school holiday period?
I was going to add that, perhaps a good starting point that some families have mentioned is to to look to the local council in particular for the activities they run. Some families have reported they've had a good reception there because they have a lot of planned activities at local council. They often have someone at council whose responsibility it is to oversee those things, who might be, you know, a facilitator of having your child included in those programs. So local council is a tip that I've had from a family of somewhere to start.
And through that, the library. So often the library will have sort of interest activities through the holidays, and those interest activities continue into after-school activities as well when the school goes back. So that's something as well. If they've developed some friendships there, they can continue after school as well.
Those are both great ideas. I know some families have spoken to me about websites that will list activities, free and low-cost activities in their local area, which may be another point for families to start the search for activities if they're looking at things with perhaps not a lot of planning time ahead.
One website actually, Lily, is the Raising Children Network website, where has our neighbourhood, and you can actually put your postcode in, and it has lots of ideas and information there, special interest things that families can join in with as well. And they're developing that website continually, so that's a good one as well.
I mean, one good place might be to start is to search for an accessible park in your area, and perhaps plan to meet up with a family and just see how that goes, and perhaps progress to other activities as the school holidays move on.
Definitely. Okay. And there's vacation care, of course. You know, a lot of schools in the area have vacation care activities, so they're good ones, and they do lots of excursions as well. So off to the movies and different theme parks and all over Sydney, and everywhere really. So.
Well, thanks again. Thank you so much for joining us, Susan and Jenny. That's been some great ideas that I hope will really help families to get started when thinking about the school holidays. For more ideas about the school holidays, I'd encourage people to visit the online inclusion platform, www.oi.org.au. This recording, as well as another recording in regards to the school holidays, will be available for families, along with some simple tip sheets to help families get started in this process.